in your article about last night's press conference, and you're going through what's happened in the last several weeks with the Indianapolis Colts, Zak Keefer, you called the Ryan benching, quote unquote, universally unpopular in the locker room. So that was, who ordered the code red? That was Jim Irsay who ordered the code red on Matt Ryan?
Yeah, that was his move.
Okay.
And whether the players say it publicly or not, they were not in favor of that.
So if that's the case, then seeing Sam Ehlinger on the field against Belichick's defense, and just, and I know Irsay spoke last night about history in this century in football and how the Colts are the fourth winningest franchise. If you want to talk history since 2000, Belichick eats quarterbacks like Ehlinger, like a feral prey, right? Like we see animal documentaries that would be the proper analogy of what Belichick does to quarterbacks like that. So why is Frank Reich the fall guy for that after a game like Sunday? Can you help connect those dots for me?
Yeah, that's what I don't like. That's what I have a little bit of hard time understanding, because if the rug was pulled out from under you as a head coach in terms of you don't even get to pick the quarterback. Now, we're not talking just one quarterback here. I would play Nick Foles before I play Sam Ehlinger, but they're not doing that either. As a directive from the owner, they want to play the kid, Sam Ehlinger, and see what he's got. And you pull the rug out from Frank Reich 2 games in. Now, Frank Reich, he's guilty here too. The offense is terrible. It's his offense. He wasn't getting it done. That's absolutely part of this story, but it just feels like this is an impossible situation for anybody to walk into and have success, because everything goes back to the offensive line falling apart. But if you're telling the coach who to play and who not to play, and then you're firing him for losing with the guy you want him to play, this is meddling. And this is what Jim Irsay has fought for 25 years as an owner. He didn't want to be his father. For those who remember, Bob Irsay was insane. He would run down on the field at halftime and tell the coach to bench the quarterback, and he would fire the coach and forget about it an hour later. And I could go on, but Jim Irsay has been very deliberate. He wasn't going to be that owner. But in the last 12 months, he's stepped into these decisions, and he's made his voice heard. And Frank Reich is out. Marcus Brady is out. And Chris Ballard was sitting there last night sort of like, we had some passionate discussions. I certainly don't believe this was Chris Ballard's choice to go to an unproven coach to try and save a season that's going nowhere.
Of course, since he knows for sure there's nobody on the staff that's called a single NFL offensive play before. Nobody. And you're making this move in the middle of a week. That building must be sleepwalking right now, not knowing what's going on, what the schedule is, how things are going to change, who's calling plays, what's going on at all. And you've got to play a game against Las Vegas. And of all people, the guy who turned down the job.
Right.
You want to talk about football gods winking at you. So, of course, Chris Ballard wouldn't make a decision like this. And that's why I'm still wondering why Irsay did. Did he sit there and think that Reich was coaching scared and going to analytics too much in New England, and that the kid wasn't being supported because he was purposely trying to tank because he was against Ryan being benched? Is that that's the only sort of stuff I would, as you're speculating, because again, as you know, a conspiracy theory always fills the vacuum. So I can't. I have no idea. I'm really grasping. Talking.
Yeah, and so are people within the building. People that go to this Colts practice facility every day to work. And some of them are livid, some of them are embarrassed, and some of them are just completely in disbelief. And one of the most poignant moments last night during this 35-minute bizarro press conference was I asked Jeff Saturday, what in the world are you doing here, for lack of a better phrase? And he said, look, man, I got a call Sunday night, and I was shocked was an understatement. Saturday's response when Jim Irsay brought this up to him was, honestly, can you tell me why you're calling me for this job right now? Right? With all due respect to Jeff Saturday, great player. This is not how this happens in the NFL. And hey, extra credit for thinking outside the box, but this is going to be a long couple of months in Indianapolis.
So let's just try and, what's the silver lining Look for it for me and for Colts fans who might be hearing this, slapping their heads with their open palm. Is there one? You got one here?
You know, they have the worst offensive line in football. Maybe he fixes it. You know, what's happened to Quentin Nelson? What's happened to Ryan Kelly? What's happened to Braden Smith? They allowed 9 sacks on Sunday. 9. That's just horrendous. And they had, I think, 2 net yards in the first quarter. I mean, maybe he gives them some juice. Maybe he fixes the offensive line. And maybe he stays on. You know, they tried to hire him before as an offensive line coach. It didn't happen. But I think this is a test run for Jeff Saturday as well. I think he wants to find out if he wants to be a full-time coach, if he wants to be a head coach or a position coach or something. This is a heck of a way to do it, right? Just get thrown in the fire on November 8th and have a game in Las Vegas in 5 days.
And what about Jonathan Taylor? What can you tell me, Zach, about him and his health?
You know, do we see him again this season?
Really?
I don't know.
Come on, really? They just put him away? That's the problem, too, is that, the 3 wins that they have already are too many. How about that? Frank Reich won too many times at this point in time.
Yeah, Matt Ryan won too many fourth-quarter comebacks for him. They're not in the top 5 right now, and I think that's the only silver lining at the end of this season. The end of this disaster that has been this season is they need to find a way. They need to find a way into the top 5 or 6 or 7 of the draft, and they need to find a new quarterback. That could be the only payoff from this crazy couple of months that we've had in Indianapolis. I mean, are they really going to it's hard to see the Colts competing in so many of these games down the stretch because of their offense and because so many holes they have to fill right now. And this is a mess of their own making. That's really how I would sum it up.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.